The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the Man from Lang. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, I am doing a playthrough of A Phantom of Truth. We're doing things a bit out of order this time around. I did the Pallid Mask playthrough, and now I'm doing A Phantom of Truth. Phantom of Truth is a unique scenario in that you can play it. It actually plays two different ways depending on whether you have more doubt or conviction in your campaign log. This is going to be the playthrough for if you have doubt, and I'm also going to be doing another playthrough for the conviction side, because it does play quite differently depending on which way you go. The deck I'm using today is a Roland Banks deck based on Dadu 13's Sleuth Enforcer deck. I was planning to play my Jim Culver deck that I had played in the Pallid Mask, but it loses pretty hard to this scenario. I think I beat it the first time around and beat it rather easily, and then since then it has gone down to defeat almost every single time. I think it's just the lack of it doesn't really have a good it's fine for investigating, but it doesn't have a very good enemy management plan, and that so it struggles quite a bit with this scenario. This Roland Banks deck has done okay on both the doubt and conviction settings, and I'm looking forward to bringing you this playthrough. The deck, for those of you who haven't seen Dadu 13's Sleuth Enforcer deck over at Arkham DB, has it's got the 45 automatic machete for offense. It's got a 9 experience points in it. I capped it at 9 just to keep it so I wouldn't have to add another weakness to my deck. It's got an Elder Sign Amulet for a little more sanity. It's got 2 copies of Pathfinder and 1 copy of Shortcut for mobility. It's got a couple copies of Working the Hunch and Deduction as well to help it gather clues, and a copy of Prepared for the Worst to find weapons, which are very important, and 2 copies of Dodge just in case we don't happen to kill things, and Dr. William T. Mallison, Beat Cop, and Art Student as its allies. So I did go with 13 experience, or sorry, 9 experience, just to so I wouldn't have to add another weakness. The big cards I think in this scenario are the Shortcut and the Pathfinder. Mobility is very important in this particular scenario, and so I'm hoping to see those early. We are set up over in Octagon. This is a fairly large map. It's the maps in this particular cycle seem to be quite a bit larger, so mobility is very important to be able to get around Paris as quickly as possible. If you're playing the doubt, if you have more doubt than conviction, your goal is to track down and defeat the organist. Now, the organist cannot be damaged, so you defeat him by placing clues on him, and since I'm playing in solo, I'll have to place 3 clues on the organist. If you're playing in conviction mode, you actually have to try to evade the organist and survive 3 nights in Paris. So it's a lot heavier on evade, and because you cannot defeat the organist. And he hits a lot harder too. I believe he does 3 sanity, yeah. So he hits very hard in conviction mode. But we are playing doubt. This is going to be a doubt run through. So Roland Banks starts in play over here at Gare d'Orsay. It's a 4 shroud location with 1 clue, and it has the action spend 1 resource move to any rail location. And there are quite a few in play. There's Montparnasse, we've got Notre Dame, Le Marais, and Montmartre. I believe those are all of them. Oh, and the Opera Garnier. So I found when you're playing in either doubt or conviction, you really need to try to use the map to your advantage. If you're playing in doubt, it's good to try to trap the organist in some of these locations like the Theatre of the Great Puppet and Canal Saint-Martin. So he can't get away. If you can get him up here, you can try to trap him so you can defeat him. Ideally, I think you'd like to get him at Notre Dame because he does his fight value is a little bit lower there, but that can be tricky to do. If you're playing in conviction mode, you really do need to use the map to your advantage because to stay away from not just the organist but all the enemies in this scenario, because all of the enemies happen to be hunters, and so you are going to be chased relentlessly unless you can kill them. Our agenda is 1A, the first night. As you step off the train in Gare d'Orsay, the sun sinks below the Paris skyline. You cannot waste any time. If Nigel Ingram is somewhere in Paris, you have to find him and wring the answers from him one way or another. And it has the game text, while you have more conviction than doubt, this agenda gains when checking the doom threshold. Doom on cards other than this agenda subtract from the total doom in play instead of adding to it. This is very important in the conviction playthrough. It doesn't really have much effect in the doubt playthrough. Our act is 1A, the Parisian Conspiracy, version 1. You pass the Church of St. Barnabé as you exit the train station and cannot help but overhear the organ playing. Is there a sermon this late in the evening? You marvel at the wild and strange chords for a moment before continuing. Paris is a very big city, and you have very few leads. So our objective is to spend the requisite number of clues to advance, which is 2 per investigator, so we will need 2. And the other objective is at the end of the round, if there are 3 or more doom in play, you have to advance. And so ideally we do want to advance by spending the clues, because that will bring the organist a lot closer to us, so we don't have to spend as much time chasing him around the city. We are playing a Phantom of Truth in standalone mode on standard difficulty. The skulls are minus X, which is X is the amount of doom in play, to a maximum of -5. And there are quite a few. There are the Spires of Carcosa, of course, that add doom in play, as well as any doom on the agenda. So the skulls can be quite painful. I had to add a random cultist tablet or elder thing tokens to the bag, and I ended up adding cultists this time around. And they are -2 if you fail. Move each unengaged Bayaki in play once toward the nearest investigator. Now, when you're, I'm going to make one change to the standalone rules. The standalone rules say you do not have to add the Lost Soul weakness to your deck. It is, of course, a Madness Pact revelation. Check your campaign log. If you have more or equal doubt than conviction, you test X intellect, where X is your willpower, and if you fail, you take 2 damage. And if you have more conviction than doubt, test willpower X, where X is your intellect, and if you fail, you take 2 damage. The standalone mode says you don't have to include a copy of this. I am going to include a copy of it, because why not? I like to make things a little bit harder on myself, and certainly Roland has the health for it, so I don't see why not. We also had to add a copy of the Man in the Pallid Mask to our deck as well, so he's in there. I have not drawn a weakness, which I will do now. So we will shuffle up our weaknesses. And the weakness for this game will be Haunted. That is, of course, the curse. You add Haunted to your threat area, and you get -1 for each of your skills, and you need to take 2 actions to discard it. So that is that will be our weakness for this playthrough. So ideally what I would like to do is I'd like to grab this clue here at Gare d'Orsay as quickly as possible, and then typically I head down here to Montparnasse to grab the second clue so I can advance. And then it's really just a matter of trying to trap the organist. And this scenario is a bit tricky for Roland. I've found I've beaten it with Roland, and I've also gone down to defeat. It's quite a tricky scenario, I think, for him, because this scenario does put a fair amount of pressure on your sanity, and Roland only has 5, so he relies pretty heavily on his allies to keep him afloat. The other problem with this scenario is the enemies have fairly high fight values. The Bayaki, the stealthy Bayaki, has a fight value of 5, while the Screeching one has a 3, but it has a 4 fight value if you have 4 or less sanity, which isn't difficult for Roland to get to, because he just needs to take 1 horror and he's there. So sometimes defeating the enemies can be a bit difficult in this scenario, and Roland really doesn't have any plan besides defeating them, because his agility is only 2, so he cannot really evade the enemies if he happens to get trapped. So hopefully what we would like to do is ideally grab this clue at Gare d'Orsay quickly, as well as end up with an ally and a weapon in our opening hand, so we can get a good start and get to this organist. The other thing with Roland playing this is he has to take at least 2 attacks from the organist in order to basically defeat him. So he's going to have to take 2 horror at some point. Now hopefully I'll have an ally out at that time, so the ally can take it, or maybe I'll draw a copy of one of my copies of Dodge to dodge one of those attacks. So that's going to be fairly key. But I think I'm ready to draw my opening hand here. We'll shuffle up our deck, and let's get started with this playthrough. I've been looking forward to playing this for you for quite a while. It's a scenario that has really grown on me over the past little while. Initially, I wasn't too sure what to think of it. Initially, I wasn't too thrilled about the difference between playing on Doubt and Conviction, but it's become one of my favorite scenarios to play. I find it's quite challenging, but it also feels, quite fair, and it's quite an enjoyable game to play. So in our opening hand, we've got a copy of Emergency Cash, Machete, William T. Mallison, Vicious Blow, and another Emergency Cash. So we got 2 of the cards that we were hoping to get, the Machete and an ally. So I think I'm going to keep one of the Emergency Cash. We're going to pitch the Vicious Blow and the other copy of Emergency Cash, and draw to replace those. There's a copy of Guts and another copy of Vicious Blow. So we'll shuffle those back into our deck. Not really happy to see. The Guts will definitely come in handy, and the Vicious Blow can help us against the Bayaki in this game. I'm not that happy that I didn't see the Art Student or either copy of Working a Hunch, because that would make it a lot easier to pick up this clue at Gare d'Orsay. So I may end up moving somewhere else to start. But we're ready to start, so we aren't going to waste any time. I think we'll use our first... we're going to use our first action To play our machete, we will use our second action to play Dr. William T. Mallison. And our third action, this is a good question. We're investigating at a 3 versus 4, which is pretty bad. I'd also like to see a Pathfinder at some point soon, because mobility to really help us zip around this map. Unfortunately, the action on Gare d'Orsay is an action, so I think what I'm going to do is use my third action to move down here to Montparnasse. So I have Montparnasse is a 2-shroud location with 1 clue, and it has the fast trigger: discard a card from your hand to gain resources equal to the number of wild icons on that discarded card, limit once per round. So a nice little resource boost if you need it. That is going to do it for our first turn. So we will draw a card. There's Roland's 38 special. That is nice to see. That can certainly help him against the Bayaki if there is a clue at his location. So I may want to get that into play as well as the machete. We will gain a resource, and we will go to our first Mythos phase. Our first encounter card is going to be, oh, this is a bad one. This is one of the worst ones for Roland, in fact. Hunted by Bayaki. It's a revelation. Test 6 agility, and if you fail, you reveal the top X cards of the encounter deck, where X is the amount you failed by. If at least one Bayaki enemy is revealed by this effect, choose and draw one of them. If at least one Omen treachery is revealed by this effect, take 1 horror. Shuffle the encounter deck. And Roland's got an agility of 2, so it's going to be pretty tough to match that. I am not going to discard anything. I'm not going to commit any cards to this skill test. We'll just take it straight up, and we get a -1. So we actually only have to reveal 5 cards, which is nice. So let us see how we do. That's not a Bayaki. There's a Bayaki. There's a Frozen in Fear. Glad to see that go. And our final card. So we got 2 Bayaki, both of the the Screeching Bayakis. We also got a Marked by the Sign, a Frozen in Fear, and a Black Star's Rise. So we do have to take one of the Screeching Bayakis. And there was an Omen card, so we also have to take a horror, which we're going to put on Dr. William T. Mallison. The Screeching Bayaki, of course, has 3 fight, 4 health, and 3 evade. It's a monster Bayaki. It has the prey, lowest remaining sanity. It's a hunter, and while engaged with an investigator with the remaining sanity 4 or fewer, Screeching Bayaki gets +1 fight and +1 evade. So that is going to be a little... I'm glad we had Dr. William T. Mallison out to take that horror, so that Bayaki will remain a 3 fight. So we get an enemy right off the bat, but that's okay, because we can... if we do defeat the Bayaki, we can grab this clue here, so that will be nice. So we'll get our 3 actions, and we're just going to start hacking away at this Bayaki. We are going to go 5 versus 3 as our first action. Chaos Bag says -1, so we do hit it for 2. Second action, we will attack it again, 5 versus 3. Chaos Bag says 0, so we do kill it. Nice start. We'll add that to our victory display, and we will trigger Roland's response to discover a clue at our location. Very nice. Okay. We need one more clue before we can advance the act. So which way is the best way to go? Montparnasse, we can go back to Gare d'Orsay or Notre Dame. I think we're going to use an action to go up to Notre Dame. There, so we'll flip that over. Notre Dame is a 3-shroud location with 1 clue, and it has each enemy at Notre Dame gets -1 fight and +1 evade. And you may take an action to test 6 willpower. If you succeed, either place 1 doom on the current agenda or remove 1 doom from the current agenda. Group limit once per game. I don't think Roland will be doing that action with his 3 willpower, but you never know. That is going to be the end of our turn, so we go to upkeep. We will draw. There's a working the hunch. Okay, that's nice because we could use that to grab our clue. We will gain a resource. We will add a doom. Second encounter card of the game is going to be False Lead. If you have no clues, False Lead gains Surge. If you have 1 or more clues, test Intellect 4. For each point you fail by, place 1 of your clues on your location. This is a problem as well. So if we fail this test, we're going to drop a clue at Notre Dame, and we're going to have to basically pass 2 Intellect 3 tests with a 3 Intellect. I'm not a big fan of that, but we do have our working the hunch, so I think I'll save that. We're just going to hope for the best, I think, on this one. So we're going 3 versus 4, and we get a 0. So we do fail, but so we only have to drop the 1 clue. We only had 1. Okay, that's a bit of a setback. We still have time, though. Our act is not going to auto-advance on us unless there are 3 or more doom in play, so we've only got 2. We go to our turn. We'd be 3 versus 3 at Notre Dame to test intellect. I think I'm just going to go straight up for the first one. It's a -3. That's a failure. We're going to go straight up for the second one. It's a -2. And we'll go straight up for the third one. That's an auto fail. So that was a bit of a disaster. So we miss all 3 investigate tests. I'm going to hang on to our working the hunch. I could play it and grab a clue, but it's not going to do us much good yet. Next turn, we're going to have to advance this unless we can grab 2 clues. Maybe we can get lucky and get an enemy during the Mythos phase that we can easily kill. We'll just have to see. Let's see what we get for in the upkeep. We draw. There's our Pathfinder. Okay, that's really nice to see. That's going to come in very handy. Gain a resource. We will add a doom. Here's hoping for an enemy. We get an enemy. The Swift Bayaki. Nice. Swift Bayaki has 2 fight, 3 health, and 2 evade. It's a monster Bayaki. Prey, lowest remaining sanity. It's got Hunter and Retaliate. And when Swift Bayaki would move via the Hunter keyword, instead move it 1 location at a time until it enters its prey's location. If it moved more than 1 location by this effect, it does not attack this phase. So basically it's got double Hunter, so it's going to move twice if it's too far away from you, but if it does make that second move, it does not attack you. It does have a 2 fight, which is very nice. So Roland is definitely going to be taking this thing down this turn. It does have 3 health. So we are going to use our first action to and commit our vicious blow. So we are going to be a 5-6 versus 2. And let's see what the Chaos Bag has to say. Chaos Bag says skull -3. So we do pass 6 versus 2. So we will discard that. We do 3 damage to the Swift Bayaki. We will trigger Roland's response to grab a clue, and then we will spend 2 resources to play our Working the Hunch to grab the second one. And we do get our 2 clues, and we do have 2 actions remaining, which is awfully nice. We can advance, so we will do that now. We will flip this over. Act 1B is Saint Barnabé. If you spent clues to advance, you nearly bump into a tall man, his coat and hat as black as his skin is pale. You remember seeing him through the windows of Saint Barnabé Church. His organ playing continues to haunt you. So you spawn the set-aside organist enemy at the lead investigator's location. Draped in mystery side face up. And we advance to Act 2A, Pursuing Shadows. So the organist comes into play at Notre Dame. And we will advance to Act 2A, Pursuing Shadows, the chords that echo in your mind, the infernal man whose organ playing intrigues you and terrifies you. Perhaps there is a connection between this shadowy presence and the King in Yellow? And it has the response: after you successfully attack the organist, an investigator at your location may place one of his or her clues on the organist. Group limit 1 clue per investigator times per round. And the objective is, if there are 3 clues per investigator on the organist, we advance. So basically now we need 3 clues, and we need to attack the organist 3 times in order to succeed. Now the organist is draped in mystery. He has 3 fight, no health because he cannot be damaged, and 5 evade. He's a humanoid avatar and elite. He is aloof, and he cannot be damaged, and his forced effect is at the end of the enemy phase, if the organist is unengaged, move it 1 location away from the nearest investigator to a location with no investigators if possible. If it is engaged, disengage it instead. So the chase is on now. So at the end of each enemy phase, unless I'm engaged with the organist, he is going to move to these locations. So now you've got to really use the map to your advantage. I can move him. What I could try to do is move him either to the Gardens of Luxembourg and then chase him and try to get him back to Notre Dame, where he's got an easier fight value, or up to Le Marais here, and then back to Notre Dame. So we're going to try to corner him in this corner and get a couple clues. We only need 3 clues now, so that's our goal. We just need the 3 clues in order to defeat him. So my second action, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to gain a resource, and then actually I don't need to do that because I do have my emergency cash, which I will spend. That's a better way of doing it. So I'll gain 3 resources, and then I'm going to use my final action to spend 3 resources to get my Pathfinder into play. And Pathfinder, of course, has that free trigger, which during your turn, if you are not engaged with an enemy, exhaust Pathfinder to move to a connecting location. So that really helps you to be able to track down that organist quickly. So we go to the enemy phase. The clues at Le Marais are typically a little easier to grab. So I'm going to move the organist up. He has to move away from me, so he's going to move up there. Go to the upkeep. I will draw a card. There is an inquiring mind. That is helpful if there are clues on the location. Gain a resource. We will add a doom and draw a next encounter card, which is twisted to his will. If there is no doom in play, twisted to his will gains surge. Otherwise, you test X willpower, where X is the amount of doom in play. And if you fail, you have to discard 2 cards at random from your hand. So this is an interesting, there are 4 doom in play, so it's a willpower 4 versus 3. If I fail, I'm going to lose 2 cards. I might as well pitch the guts to it. And because I'm probably going to lose it anyway if I fail, so I might as well give it a try. So I'm going to go 5 versus 4. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has to say about that. Chaos Bag says 0, so we do pass. That is nice, and we get to draw a card. There's a magnifying glass, even better. So we will, we do manage to pass that test. Surprise, surprise. We get our 3 actions. I'm going to drop the magnifying glass for sure. It's fast and it's free, so why not? Then I'm going to trigger my Pathfinder to move to a connecting location, which is Le Marais. It is a 3-shroud location with 1 clue, and it has the response trigger: when your turn begins, if you are in Le Marais, draw 1 card, group limit once per round. Okay. So now we need to get some clues and then attack the organist. So I think our first action will be, we can go 4 versus 3 because we've got the magnifying glass. We go 4 versus 3. Let's see how we do. That's a -3. That's a fail. Let's try it again. 4 versus 3. That's a cultist. That's a -2, but there are no Bayaki in play, so that doesn't matter. We'll do it one more time. 4 versus 3. And there's a cultist again. So we fail all 3 times, unfortunately. No biggie. All right. Organist moves. I'm going to move him over here to Père Lachaise Cemetery, because the clues there are a little easier to grab. We will ready our Pathfinder, draw a card. There's our second copy Machete, gain a resource, and we add a doom. Encounter card. There's Torturous Chords. Test. It's a hex and a terror. You test 5 willpower. If you fail, put Torturous Chords into play in your threat area with 1 resource on it. For each point you fail by, each time you play a card, you increase the cost of that card by 1 and remove 1 resource from Torturous Chords. If it has no resources on it, you have to discard it. So we are at a 3 versus 4 or a 5. I'm not going to bother spending anything on this one. There's a -4, so we are adding 5 resources to Torturous Chords. So that's going to make things a little bit more expensive, but we are pretty much set up, so I'm not overly concerned about that. We get our actions. I'm going to use my first action. We are actually in Le Marais at the start of our turn, so we can trigger this response to draw a card. I will do that. There is our Elder Sign Amulet. That's nice to see. I'm going to trigger my Pathfinder to move up to Père Lachaise. It's a 1-shroud location with 2 clues. It has the forced effect: after you successfully investigate Père Lachaise Cemetery, you cannot leave Père Lachaise Cemetery until the end of the round. So we're going to be stuck here if we successfully investigate, but that's okay. We want these 2 clues so we can start attacking the organist. I am going to go 4 do an investigate 4 versus 1 as our first action. Chaos Bag says -3, so we succeed. That's nice. Second action, we will go 4 versus 1 again. Chaos Bag gives us an Elder Sign, so that's a +1 for Roland, because it's +1 for each clue. So we gain our second clue. We're going to need 1 more clue at least in order to be able to kill off the organist. We do have an action remaining, though. I'm going to put my Elder Sign Amulet into play. I have to spend 3 resources because of the Torturous Chords. But that will give us 4 extra sanity to play around with, so that will help us. Organist, we can move him. He's got to move away. We can move him back to... I'm going to move him back here to Le Marais. And we will go to our upkeep. So already Pathfinder, draw a card. There's another copy of Guts. That'll come in handy because there are Frozen in Fears in this in the encounter deck, so I need some protection from that. Gain a resource, and we are advancing this turn. So we have 6 Doom, so we are advancing. We advance to Daybreak, Agenda 1B. Birds start to chirp eagerly. An orange tint slowly spreads across the sky as the creatures of the night shrink back into the darkness. You spend most of the day resting, and the daylight passes quickly with very little to show for it. Before you are able to fully recover from the previous night's events, it is evening once more. So each investigator disengages from each enemy engaged with him and may move to a connecting location. I am going to do that. I'm going to move to Le Marais. And then the organist moves 1 location away from the nearest investigator to a location with no investigators, if possible. So I am going to move him to Notre Dame. So this sets us up here. We can... the organist gets -1 fight and +1 evade at Notre Dame, which will help us defeat him that much quicker. And we will advance to our next agenda, which is Agenda 2A. The second night, the city stirs as cold shadows embrace the streets. There is danger all around you. Danger that you cannot escape. Danger that will follow you to the ends of the earth. When will this waking nightmare end? And it has the same text as the previous agenda. While you have more conviction than doubt, this agenda gains when checking the Doom threshold. Doom on cards other than this agenda subtract from the Doom total in play instead of adding to it. Alright, we get to draw an encounter card. Let's see what we get. There is another Swift Bayaki. Okay. So we can get our 3rd clue here. If we defeat this Bayaki, we can grab this clue, and then the problem is he's got 3 health, which is going to take us at least 2 turns to get him. But what I think we can do here, if I can kill him in 2 shots, which I think is possible, we use our Pathfinder to move down to Notre Dame and engage the organist. We're going to take a shot from him, but we do have our Elder Sign Amulet. As long as we stay engaged with the organist, he's not going to leave Notre Dame, and we can basically hammer him there and hopefully bring this scenario to a quick end. So let's first action, we're going to go 4, 5 versus 2. -2 says the Chaos Bag, so we do 2 damage. Second action, we do it again. Another -2, so the Swift Bayaki goes away. And we will trigger the response to grab a clue. We were in Le Marais at the start of our turn. I forgot to draw a card. I will do that now. There's a prepared for the worst. Trigger Pathfinder to move to Notre Dame. Third action, I'm going to engage the organist to prevent him from running away. So we go to the enemy phase. The organist will attack us. I'm going to put that horror on the amulet, and then at the end of the enemy phase he disengages from us. Alright, we go to, that was the enemy phase. We're in upkeep, so we're ready Pathfinder. There's a shortcut. That's nice to see. If we really need to boogie somewhere, we'll add a resource, throw up a doom, and our next encounter card is Deadly Fate. It's test 3 willpower. If you fail, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until an enemy is discarded. You must either draw that enemy or that enemy attacks you from the discard pile. If no enemy is discarded, you take 1 horror instead. I am going to pitch my guts to that. So that will bring us to 5 versus 3. And we get an Elder Sign, but that's a 0. So we do pass, which is nice. We draw a card, which is an art student. A little bit more sanity if we need to lose Dr. William T. Mallison. So far, so good. Okay. So that was a very, I'm glad we passed that. I mean, we could have taken the attack from the Bayaki if we needed to. But I'm glad it's not, we don't have to bring it into play with us right now, because I do want to try to bring the organist down here quickly. So as my first action, I am going to engage the organist. As my second action, I'm going to whack him with the machete. So I am a 4-5 versus 2 because he's -1 fight. So a 5 versus 2. Chaos Bag says cultist. That's a -2. So we do succeed. And I will trigger the response on the act. After you successfully attack the organist, an investigator may place a clue on him. So I will place 1 clue on the organist. I have 1 action remaining. I can only put 1 clue on him per turn. So attacking him again doesn't do me any good. But I don't really have anything else to do. So I think I am just going to, I'll just hit him again. I could just burn the action and waste it, but why not? We'll just hit him again. Third action, there's another cultist, so he is, we hit him again, but we do no damage. We go to the enemy phase. The organist hits us for a horror, which we will put on the amulet, and then he will disengage from us. But he does not move. That's the important thing. We want to hold him here at Notre Dame until we can get that 3rd clue on him. Draw a card. There's a deduction. Gain a resource. And add a doom. Next encounter card is, there is the Hunted by Bayaki again. Test 6. If we fail, we reveal the top X cards. Now, what we could do here, is it worth it to use Dr. William T. Mallison to reshuffle that? That is a good question. What do we have for Bayaki in the deck? There's at least one Screeching Bayaki and 2 Stealthy Bayaki. How many cards in the deck? 16. There is a chance we could, it could whiff. That's always a possibility. So, that actually might whiff. I've had it whiff before. That would be fantastic. If we get a Stealthy Bayaki, that's a 5. We do have some cards we can pitch to deal with it. So we'll just go with it. 6 versus 2. Chaos Bag says Cultist again, -2. So we have to discard 6 cards. Let's see how we do. Card 1, there's the Stealthy Bayaki. Card 2 is the Pale Mask Beckons. Card 3 is a Deadly Fate. Card 4 is a Spires of Carcosa. Card 5 is another Deadly Fate, and card 6 is a Torturous Chord. So we nearly whiffed if it wasn't for that first So we grabbed the Stealthy Bayaki, and we also need to check if we drew an Omen card. I'm pretty sure we did. There's tons of Omen cards in this deck. I will take a Horror. Actually, I don't want to take the Horror. There's at least one more Screeching Bayaki in there. And until it's gone, I don't want Horror, because that just makes them tougher to kill. Okay, so we've got a Stealthy Bayaki. Stealthy Bayakis have 5 fight, 2 health, and 3 evade. They're monster Bayakis. They're hunters, and while Stealthy Bayaki is exhausted, it gets -3 fight. It's not likely we're going to be able to exhaust it, so we're going to have to fight it with a 5. Fortunately, we do have some cards we can pitch, and it's only got 2 health. So what we're going to do, first action, one too many actions. First action, we're going to pitch the gun, the machete, and are prepared for the worst. So we're going to go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 versus 5. Chaos Bag says -2, so we do hit it, and we do kill it. Second action, we engage the organist. Third action, we attack the organist. 5 versus 2. See how we do. There's the auto fail. Damn. That is an unfortunate. All right. Well, yeah, damn it. All right. That's really annoying at that time. It's going to take us 2 more turns at least to kill this organist. He's going to attack us. I think. Do I want him to take it or not? Yeah, I'm going to have Dr. William T. Mallison take the attack. And then the organist will disengage from us. All right. At the end of the enemy phase, we draw a card. There is our weakness. That comes at a terrible time. Absolutely terrible time. I'm going to get a resource. So we're going to have to take 2 actions. We may have to let the organist run off for a turn, but we shall see. And we will add a Doom and draw an encounter card, which is another stealthy Bayaki. Oh dear, things just went pear-shaped on us here. We were doing so well, and now we have we got that auto fail, which prevented us from putting a token on the organist. We could have finished the game this turn if we had what we needed, but now we are in trouble. So, well, each enemy gets -1 fight, so that's okay. So that he's going to be a 4, but we are also a 4 because we have our Haunted in play. I'm wondering whether we could play our shortcut. If we play the shortcut, we move, say, to the Gardens of Luxembourg. Then we could try to kill the Bayaki. Problem is then we could move back. Just trying to figure out how the best way is to... It's going to take us 2 actions to get rid of the Haunted. Alright. I'm going to take the 2 actions to get rid of the Haunted first. We're going to take an attack of opportunity for that. So we'll take the 2 damage in a horror. We'll drop the horror on our Elder Sign Amulet. We're going to play shortcut, I believe. Well, he's a 4, we're a 5 now. But if I move over, he's a 5 and I am an 8. It's risky, but I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play shortcut to move Roland to the Gardens of Luxembourg. It's a 3-shroud location with 1 coup. While a Bayaki enemy is moving, if there is an investigator at Gardens of Luxembourg, that enemy's location is considered to be connected to the Gardens of Luxembourg, and it's worth a victory point. But we don't suffer an attack of opportunity because that's a free action. That's a fast action. Now we can try to attack it. Use our 3rd action to attack it, and there's a clue there, so I can play Inquiring Mind. We are a 5, 6, 7, 8 versus 5. Chaos Bag says Skull. That's a -3. So we just defeat it. Thank goodness. We'll trigger the response to grab a clue. And then we're going to use Pathfinder to move back to Notre Dame. Okay. That works. Now we're not going to be able to use our trick necessarily on the organist this turn, but we can move him away from us a little bit. and try to bring him back to Notre Dame. Where does the organist go? I think the organist goes up. He'll go up here. We'll go to the upkeep phase. We'll draw a card. There's an unexpected courage. That's nice. There's one Bayaki left in the deck. I know that. There's 9 cards and there's one Bayaki. Okay. We've seen both hunting Bayaki, so those are gone. We don't have to worry about those anymore. The only other card I'm worried about is Deadly Fate, which could pull the Bayaki on us. Let's add a Doom. Yep, add a Doom. Encounter card is Frozen in Fear. That's also terrible. Fortunately, we do have our Pathfinder, which means we do not have to, if we're using our Pathfinder, we can get around the Frozen in Fear a little bit. Not actually terrible at this time. Gonna gain our actions. I'd like to play the art student. Does that give us enough time? We do want to hit the organist this turn as well. He's going to make a run for it. When we advance. Okay, I'm going to play the art student. So that is going to cost us 3 resources because of the torturous chords. I'm going to use the Pathfinder to move. That gets us around the Frozen in Fear. Second action, engage the organist. Third action, we are going for 5 versus 3. Oh, but we can't do that. Because it costs us 2 actions with Frozen in Fear. Shoot. That is a problem. That is a problem, and I'm not too sure how to solve it. We can get rid of the Frozen in Fear this turn. Hopefully. We do have the unexpected courage we can play. This is a bit of a problem. I'm just going to draw a card, I think. There's a Forewarned. That's actually nice because we do have an extra clue, so we can cancel a card with it. Alright, well, we're going to try to get rid of this Frozen in Fear. We're going 5 versus 3. Chaos. Oh, Chaos Bag! What are you doing to me? Auto fail on the Frozen in Fear check. Oh, come on. It's the second tentacle this game, and it's burned me. Alright, that enemy phase, I'm going to move the organist here to Montmartre. I would move him down, but bad stuff happens when this agenda flips. So we will draw a card. There's a vicious blow. That doesn't really help us all that much. Gain a resource and add a doom. So we flip. A red sun rises, agenda 2B. To your relief, the sun once again begins to rise, peaking just over the eastern horizon and casting long shadows across the city streets. You are completely exhausted from the night's events. It feels as though you haven't slept in weeks. Perhaps you haven't. So each investigator disengages from each enemy engaged with him, and we move to a connecting location. Move the organist one location away from the investigators to a location with no investigators if possible. And we check the campaign log, and if Jordan Perry is not listed under VIP slain, we search the collection for Jordan Perry, an imposing presence, and spawn him in Montparnasse. Jordan Perry happens to be right here, so we will flip him over, and he is a hunter. 2 fight, 8 health, and 2 evade. Monster Lunatic Elite, and forced at the beginning of the enemy phase, you heal 1 damage from him. Okay, so he's going to give chase now too. So we advance to our next agenda, 3A. The third night. On the evening of your third night in Paris, a desperate resolve stirs within you. This cat-and-mouse game cannot go on any longer. One way or another, this night will end it. And it has the same game text as the other two if you've got more conviction or doubt. And a doom threshold of 5. Okay. So we get to move. We'll move to Montmartre. It's a 3-shroud location with 1 clue, and it has the action: reveal the top card of each investigator's deck. You may play that asset revealed by this effect, paying its cost under your control. Shuffle each investigator's deck, group limit once per round, and the organist will move away. Up here to Grand Guignol. Guignol, I think that's how you say it. Alright, so we can trap him up in the theater. Jordan's going to make his way up. We need to try to beat this guy in the next couple turns, or we're going to be in deep trouble. We do have to draw an encounter card, which is a false lead. Now, I have the choice of dropping a clue to cancel it. Do I cancel this, or do I lose all? Potentially I could lose all my clues, which would be bad. This is not the time to be investigating. I am going to cancel that. I will place a clue on Montmartre to cancel it. I still have 2 clues. So we're okay. I gain 3 actions. I'm going to use my Pathfinder to move. I'm going to use my first action to engage the organist. I'm going to use my third action to attack the organist. Or my second and third action, since I'm frozen in fear. I am going to pitch this vicious blow to the test. Commit that, so we are at 4, 5, 6 versus 3. Chaos Bag says -1. We do hit him. So we will move a clue over to him using the response on Act 2A. Whew. Okay, 1 more hit to go, and we've done it. Okay, we go to the enemy phase. Jordan is on the move. He'll come up to Gare d'Orsay. The organist disengages from us. Oh, I forgot to flip Grand Guignol here. It's a 3-shroud location. 3-shroud location with 1 clue. After you reveal Grand Guignol, you must either take 2 horror or shuffle all non-weakness cards from your hand into your deck, then draw an equal number of cards. I will, since I didn't reveal that and I've already pitched the vicious blow, I will take the 2 horror, and I've got to take a horror from the attack on him. So we'll say she took 2 and I'll take 1. And that brings us back into... we also have to check for Frozen in Fear at the end of our turn. What triggered all... Oh, yeah. Okay. So we are a 3 versus 3. There's another tentacle. There's the 3rd tentacle of the game. And we do fail the Frozen in Fear check, but that's not terrible. Okay. It is the upkeep phase. I will ready Pathfinder. I will draw a card. There is a dodge. Nice to see that. We will add a resource. We will advance the act, or advance the agenda and draw an encounter card. There's 1 Bayaki left in 7 cards. We do not draw it. It is the yellow sign test 4 willpower. If you fail, take 2 horror and search your deck for a madness weakness. Draw that card and shuffle it into your deck. And shuffle your deck, sorry. So we're a 4 versus 4. Or we're a 3 versus 4, sorry. 3 versus 4. We're just going to take it, I guess. We'll be okay, I think. 0. So we do take 2 horror. Here's that horror pressure I was telling you about. 3 of 5. And we have to search our deck for a madness card and draw it. Now we do, that's why we shuffled in our, we've got 3 weaknesses in our top 13 cards. So our madness is the one we added in that we didn't have to, but hey, we're hardcore, so, well, not hardcore because we're not playing on hard, but a little bit harder, minorly hard. So it's we have more doubt than conviction this game, so we test intellect X, where X is our willpower, so we're testing intellect 3, or we take 2 damage, so it's a 3-3, we just do that. And we fail, so we take 2 damage as well. So yeah, that's this yellow sign card is really nasty in this particular scenario if you've got that Lost Soul in your deck, because you're going to take the 2 horror and probably take 2 damage on top of it, unless you can pass that other check. We do have 3 actions, though. We can use our first action to engage the organist. We can use our second action to attack the organist. Our second and third actions to attack the organist. So the organist is 3, we are 5. It's just 5 versus 3. This is for the game right here. Chaos Bag says skull. That's a 1. That's a -1. Hey, hey! We hit the organist and we get to add another clue to him. So we are victorious. We managed to take down the organist. We have, if there are 3 clues on the organist, we advance to agenda 3A or 2B, which is Lost Lamb. You pursue your quarry through a narrow avenue, passing a set of heavy iron gates. You are in a dead end, a court with tall old houses on either side. You close the gates behind you and turn back toward the shadowed figure just as daybreak begins to break. Rays of light peek out over the skyline, and you lift your hand to block the gaze of the sun. Then, as though dispersed by the sunlight, the figure you had been chasing folds into the shadows and vanishes. You search the court for the mysterious figure, but there is no sign of him anywhere. Just as you are about to leave, you spot a plaque next to a red-brown door atop a steep, narrow staircase. It reads N. Engram. And you check your campaign log. If you intruded on a secret meeting, you proceed to R2, and otherwise you get R1. So that was a rather... well, I wouldn't say it was overly dramatic. I was pretty concerned there when we drew the Haunted and the Stealthy Bayaki at Notre Dame. I thought we had the game well under control, but then we drew a couple of really inopportune tentacles, which prevented us from taking down the organist before we flipped to Agenda 3A. And once Agenda 3A comes out, you've got Jordan to worry about as well as the organist. Fortunately, we were able to corner the organist up here at the theater, and Frozen in Fear didn't hurt us that badly. Pathfinder is such a huge card in this particular scenario. It just makes the chase that much easier. I played this scenario last night as well, and I don't think I actually got close to putting a damage on the organist because I didn't have a Pathfinder out, and I just seemed to draw a Bayaki every time. The Bayaki were spread out so evenly. Every time I was about to make a move on the organist, I'd draw another Bayaki and had to stop and deal with that. So it's an interesting, it's a fun scenario. I like this scenario quite a bit in both Doubt and Conviction. They play quite differently, so I will be doing a Conviction playthrough as well. And that's a Phantom of Truth. I'm glad we drew the Frozen in Fear late in the game. It's unfortunate that we drew the tentacle when we tried to get rid of it. That would have made it a little bit easier to defeat the organist, but fortunately we had just enough sanity, and we had enough allies to absorb sanity. I mean, that was 4. We took an additional... We lost Mylan Christopher, the art student, and the amulet, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sanity, 8 horror that we had to take in addition to the 3. So you can see that the sanity pressure in this scenario is real, and you really need to plan for it. Otherwise, you're going to get mowed over. I didn't happen to draw a cover-up this time, which I have played this in the past, and I do try to clear it even if I'm playing in standalone mode. Fortunately, I did not draw it this game. I'm kind of curious to see where it ended up in the deck. It was ways down there, so we didn't have to worry about that. So if you enjoyed this playthrough, definitely check out the playthrough for A Phantom of Truth Conviction. And in that one, Roland is going to be on the run from the organist and trying to once again use these locations to his advantage to try to stay away from the organist for 3 nights. It can get pretty hairy in that one. I'm not sure if I've beaten it actually with this deck. I've come awfully close, but it can be very tricky, particularly when you advance to Agenda 3A and Jordan joins the chase. If you happen to get too many enemies toward the end of that scenario, you can get chewed up. That's going to do it for me today. If you enjoyed this playthrough, let me know, like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromlang@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromlang. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.